All right, good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday Hump Day. Here we go. Just checking in with y'all as to where or what is the volume, or do you know how loud you are when you speak? And I'm not just talking physical volume, like the loudness. I think we can generally sense the loudness. But I want to pose a thought or consideration to you today, as I was talking to a client and just working through some challenges with a couple different folks today. Um, do you know how loud you are? Meaning overpowering, perhaps, maybe intimidating at times. Um, Good to see you. Good to see you. And just throwing out this idea of the loudness of your voice. One of the great tools I get to use with clients is called the Five Voices. And it's a great tool. It gives you clarity as to where do you fit in the spectrum of like how my voice is. I worked with all types of voices, which I love. Um, in one of the voices is a nurturer. And it's much like it sounds. The nurturer is an amazing person. It's a person that's very empathetic, emotionally connected, very present with you, but one that is very slow to speak because they love to harmonize. They love to make sure people are doing well. And it's such an important person. In fact, they make up about 43% ish of the population, giving you a rough number. Actually, the majority of people out there, hopefully you're listening. Yeah, I hear you're loud too. Yes, yes, definitely. We all can be loud. Um, but for those that are super loud and know that, I want to just pose a challenge or an observation for you that uh, there are people in your life that are obviously not that way, and candidly, they're gonna keep quiet unless you know how to engage them. And I just got off a great podcast. For those of you who follow along the Business Roundtable podcast, we're gonna be releasing a new episode next week called The Communication Code. It's pretty awesome. I really enjoyed that. Thanks for Luke and Curtis and Charlie and Stacy and Bill jumping on with me tonight on that. So it's coming. But I wanted to throw out to you guys this idea because I work with clients on this as to what is your voice? Number one, do you even know your voice? And how do you use that in a positive way to leverage it effectively in communicating with others? So, this idea of how loud is your voice? Um, do you know how loud it is? And do you know the thrust of it? So we were talking to a colleague tonight where she's what I call a pioneer. It's very like straight to the point, very much uh doesn't assess the emotional presence of a lot of people. In fact, I joked I used to work with this just amazing woman that ran a great company I worked with, and she would joke with her. She'd like come in and like kind of like a sniper come into a room and just like boom, 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 just knock people out. And then she's like, "Oh, so how's everybody doing?" Well, if your voice is that loud and powerful, and I love powerful voices, but if you're not knowing the room or the audience you're coming into, you may not have the intended effect. There's a time and a place, and I want to make sure you empower your voice and use it in the most effective manner. The fact is, if you don't know that and you're not clear on that, you may use it just like any tool. It could be used for good, it could be used for not so good. It could be hurt, it could be weaponized in a way that's not effective. So I want to encourage you to kind of think about that tonight. Like, what is that? What's the loudest of my voice? And look at those around me. So I mentioned earlier there's voices, and if you guys want to take the free Five Voices assessment, let me know. I'm happy to send you a link. It's completely free. You can find out what your voice order is, at least your primary voice, and I can walk you through it. But in without that even, I just want you to think about that. Consider those people around you. Those people that are typically more quiet, and you might think they're introverts, but not everybody's an introvert just because they're quiet. I think introvert and extrovert get thrown around a little bit. Um, I know plenty of introverts that can speak loudly and have a great presence, and they do that for a time and they can switch it off and turn it around. Their voice is very impactful, it's very focused, measured. It's not their normal way of being, but they can turn it on when they need it to. There's other people then that they don't do that. So for example, I worked with an individual today, uh, and I work with folks every day on this kind of stuff, where they were more of a nurturer type, and so for them, bringing up their voice and even critiquing or challenging anybody, or even kind of like, not literally, their volume is not loud. Okay, don't get me wrong, their volume is not loud. It's they can't bring a collision. They can't have collide. Um, so it's so important. Thanks for the encouragement tonight, by the way. I appreciate that. Um, I've had to learn how to listen. I'm a connector. I talk, 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 talk. Invite those others around you that you notice are not talking very often, or they're very slow to offer an opinion or consideration. And if I'm encourage you tonight, think about this. If you were to pause what you have to say and all these things and actively listen and invite them into the conversation, you'll learn so much more in my experience. There's so much they're willing to share, but if they're not invited into the conversation, if they're not being welcomed, like, let me hear your voice. Let me hear what you have to say. Um, do not let your voice dominate the conversation. I'm guilty of this, hearing my own voice. I also think aloud. So that doesn't help at times. I literally process things aloud. There's other people that process things internally. And so realizing that if you're not paying attention to this, you're missing out. Uh, um, Number one, know this about yourself. If you don't, you're not aware of this, starts with self-awareness and understanding, and then you can start to pivot this. Um, there is so much power in this that I've learned over many, many years to engage those that are what I call your nurturers or your quieter voices. Um, they have great insights. They have things that they can share, and oftentimes these folks are your. They show great care and emotional empathy. They literally can pour themselves out, but in doing so, it takes a lot of energy from them. So they're not apt to share without being invited, without being encouraged. And so creating that space. So I want to encourage you, all of you that are the nurture type or the quieter voices out there. Um, I want to encourage you to liberate yourself, be free in a good way of having conversations and sharing this with other people. So in when we do a five voices assessment, one of the things we look at, we give you a liberation statement, a way of presenting it and letting people know that, hey, if you give me the chance to share my opinion, you give me the chance to open up, I can actually have great impact. I can help you. I can help you in your relationships. I can help you connect with other people. I can look at the situation. They're very present oriented. So those quieter voices, generally speaking, are looking at the situation. They're assessing where everybody's at, what's going on. If we do this, what's going to happen there. Um, for myself, that is a louder voice and more future oriented in my focus, it helps ground me. It helps put me into a better place of understanding the dynamics in the team. It helps me recognize certain needs and support them. And so just want you to think about that tonight. How loud is your voice? Where you fit in the spectrum? And there's a spectrum here. So I'm not saying, nurturers tend to be on they tend to be the quieter of the group, and you have folks what I call pioneers on our five voices language. The pioneers are those folks that are going into the wilderness. They're blazing trails. They are very loud. If you think of a pioneer, like when we're talking about the ends, the spectrum here, pioneers, like, they're out there in the wilderness. They have to make the noise. There's the wild animals that will take them down if they're not making the noise. There's the rattlesnake that will get them. No, they're making noise. They're crashing through because they're on a mission. They know where they need to go. They've got to carve a path. So that loudness is needed in a reason. But when you're not doing that, when you're not blazing that trail and you're going into, hey, let's have a conversation, or somebody's in a difficult situation, or they're going through challenges we all have circumstances, physical issues that come up. relationship challenges that come up with our spouse or our children, we're emotionally affected. And if you just come guns a blazing with your voice and where you're going, you're going to bulldoze them, and you're not going to help them. You're actually going to leave them, wounded, or badly damaged. So we don't want to leave people badly damaged and worse off than when we found them. That's my philosophy. I have is we leave people and things better off than the way we found them, right? And so if you know this about your voice, if you know the loudness of your voice, and you know the intensity of your voice, and you know how to fine tune that. I've been thankfully I've been a musician for many years, and there's piano and forte. There's a range there for those musicians out there. You know, there's a range, right? To go super super loud and to bring it down to just so quiet. Can you have a range? Can you control your voice and know when to raise it up and when to bring it down? This is a powerful lesson, um, and it takes practice. It takes energy, and for those that are the loud voice, it's unnatural in a way, and, like, challenging them to, like, "Okay, I gotta bring it down. I gotta bring it down so I can reach this person." And on the same token, the person that is so quiet and holding it back, they need to assert their voice, not necessarily in loudness, in volume. You don't have to shout to be heard. You can talk, and you can walk in a room, and you can be clear in your communication. This is so vitally important in today's age. There's so many ways to communicate. Forms, right? I'm communicating right now through a live video feed out to the world. You can see me. Um, we can communicate in all different forms, texts, messengers, all types of messaging apps, all of these type of things, right? How are we communicating to people? Are we inviting in a way of engaging and listening? I call it collaboration. Um, and or are we just kind of steamrolling people? And so again, how loud is your voice? If you're not sure on this, or you're feeling like I kind of have an idea but I'm not entirely sure and I'd love to get a perspective, reach out to me. Send me a direct message. I'll send you the link. It's no cost. It's just easy, free. You can jump on, look at your five voices assessment. If you want to dig deeper, communication code is another great tool. These are things in my toolbox that I bring with my clients, and I help and I curate that for them every week. Uh, and I just had a conversation today with a gentleman on about this, and I worked with, gosh, about many years ago, and we were just talking about how communication, and it's more challenging today than ever, in my opinion. Different different ages, different demographics, um, and so if we misunderstand each other, or we take the loudness or the intensity the wrong way, it breaks down. I want to build up. I want to collaborate. I want to see people having powerful conversations in all areas of their life. But focus this on business because oftentimes we struggle to have impactful conversations and be heard. So, number one, encouraging for listening for those quieter voices, those nurturers tonight. Listen and see. So take some time in the next day or two. Look around for them. Honestly, most people have some form of that in their voice order. If I talk about five voices, is they are a nurturer. And see and take a moment and just pause and ask them a question. What is your thoughts on this? I was thinking about this and I was reading this. I really like your input. You may be surprised by your answer in a good way if you're inviting them to be a part of the conversation. Like, I didn't know that. Or I didn't consider that. Um, so I encourage you to listen, pay attention to the loudness of your voice and how you're speaking, how you're presenting yourself, how you're showing up, um, and know that there are resources and tools here that I live every day. That's why I'm coming live with you here, sharing what I'm going on my journey, um, so that you can positively impact those around you, your sphere of influence. Each day we have an opportunity to live well and positively impact those in our lives. Um, we don't know what the next moment's going to come, right? Let's just make the most of each moment and each opportunity that we have in our communication and our care of one another. So I leave you with that. I appreciate you jumping on with me tonight. I'm committed to just continue to share this and bring you guys value. And I love hearing back from you, your thoughts on this. Appreciate the comments here tonight. Thank you so much. And I'll be back here again. So love you guys. Have an amazing night. Remember your leadership voice, your voice. Think about it. Look around and listen. You'll be surprised what you see. Have a good night.